pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select
Trophy Chase, Arizona.
with the second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select
Cody Smith, Houston, Texas. The fantasy draft room is now on the clock.
Welcome to the fantasy draft room. I am Chase. With me, as always, my man Cody. What do we got going on tonight?
We're going to be doing our last run at our pre-draft rankings. We're going to be doing our running backs now. We've done the quarterbacks and tight ends in one episode. We've done the wide receivers last week, and now we're doing the running backs, rounding out all of the fantasy positions, ranking them all. Quarterbacks and tight ends, top 5. Wide receivers and running backs, top 10. We're getting into those top 10 rankings today. So if you haven't seen those shows, go back, watch those, come back here, find out our running back rankings. And I guess we can just get straight into this one, man. I think it's a really big mystery. There's been a lot of debate amongst the dynasty community, but who do you have as your running back one?
Anthony Richardson. Oh wait, I'm sorry. This isn't a rookie 101 pick. I'm sorry. This is
Calling
running backs
running
only.
back
So
already. Just Lamar all over.
Bijan Robinson, the unquestioned running back one of the class. Like I said, Anthony Richardson's been debated about who could be 101 in the draft. There is no debate about running back one. He is Bijan Robinson, the absolute monster out of Texas, had 1,500 yards rushing his senior year, came in, I believe he's 6 foot, or he's 5'11", 215, ran a 4.46, just an absolute monster. We've been waiting for him for years and finally get him.
Yep, the only guy in my rankings to come out above a 90 percentile guy. He'd probably be even higher if I haven't fully gotten the post combine results exactly where I want them yet. So I'm just going to be giving you my pre combine results as they currently sit right now. But the only guy pre combine that was over a 90 percentile guy, we've been waiting for him forever, and yeah, there's no need for real discussion here. He's fantastic. Hopefully he gets a real nice landing spot and we can actually get another workhorse running back in the league.
Yeah, and I think really where the debate does start is here at 2. Everyone talks about Jahmyr Gibbs. There are questions about his size. He's 199 pounds. That historically, in terms of fantasy production, has not been a good number to be at. If you're under really 210 pounds, if you're under 205, it's even worse. And if you're under 200, it's almost non-existent for you to have fantasy relevant seasons, or at least high-end fantasy relevant seasons. But right now, pre-NFL draft, we are going to have Jahmyr Gibbs at the 2 slot. It is very close with number 3. But Jahmyr Gibbs, he put up 926 yards rushing, caught 44 balls out of the backfield his senior year, or I guess his junior year. And he's a do-it-all back. People say he resembles Alvin Kamara with his skill set. However, he is 15 pounds lighter than Alvin Kamara. So he might have some of the same skill sets, just different body build. So we'll see what that means for him and how that translates.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern is I don't have as good of a outlook for him in terms of just the pure running game through the trenches. I have no questions about his receiving ability. He is by far the best pass catcher in this class. I don't think if anybody's trying to debate you on that, I think they're absolute banana land. But I'm not going to grade my running back fully on just the potential that he has at the receiving game. This is kind of what we did a little bit with James Cook last year, not trying to compare the two 1-to-1 apples to oranges or anything, but he's a much better running back than James Cook. But I think we fall into that trap of like, oh my gosh, the PPR upside, the half PPR upside of these running backs is just so much higher than what the standard plotters are. And yes, it's true for the guys that are actually getting that along with 15 plus touches on the ground. And then they're getting their 6 to 8 targets through the air. Like that's really the profile that you're wanting. It's a true workhorse combo role. If you're only just a receiving back, which is it's not my fear with Gibbs, but I think he still gets ground game and he's still right there. I just don't think that he is guaranteed to have the running touches combined with it. So yeah, obviously I've displayed my love for Charbonnet, possibly over him on this podcast, but as it currently sits right now, there's only one guy who is getting round one buzz other than Bijan Robinson, and that is Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm gonna go with a little bit of the overall community consensus on this one, and then these are combined rankings. So I'm good with Gibbs at 2, but I don't have nearly as much of a gap between him and our next guy that I just dropped and pre-released already. But I don't have much of a difference between him and our 3 in Zach Charbonnet.
And I feel like as we move into Zach Charbonnet, I feel like the difference between the two is going to be that draft capital and landing spot. And I feel like with Gibbs, landing spot is a lot more important than it is with Charbonnet. I feel like Charbonnet can thrive anywhere. It's just, does he get the requisite draft capital, and does he go to a situation where he can, hit right away? Because that would be awesome for him, and that would definitely push me to putting Zach Charbonnet over the top. But yeah, Zach Charbonnet, bigger body. He came in, I believe he was actually at 220. He was at 215. But he came in his senior year. He had 1,300 yards on the ground. He is not a zero on in the passing game. He's not necessarily a exquisite route runner, but he can catch the football. He had 37 catches his senior year for 321 yards. And yeah, he's a big body back. He actually came in, just so you know, 214, 6 foot. But yeah, he's big dude, ran a 4.53. He's more that prototypical size and style that you want at the running back position, and everything that he does with, he has really quick feet. He has really good contact balance. Overall, just a well-rounded running back.
He reminds me a lot of a early day Melvin Gordon or a David Montgomery. That's kind of the comps that I give to him. And like you said, it's just going to be what's that projected workload for him. But I do think he outside of Bijan is the only running back in this class that actually, in my mind, could actually take over a full 3-down workload if the NFL will actually give him that role. That's why I have him a little bit higher, because I do think he can do it all. While he doesn't excel off the charts at any one thing, he's just a very, very good running back at all facets of the game. He's not going to be a guy in the passing game that's going to line up split out wide or anything like that, like a Gibbs would be potentially, but he's a guy that can be another comp like a Leonard Fournette, where he's just catching, if he falls into the right offense, 70 catches out of the backfield. I think that we saw from Leonard Fournette last year. So I think it was 74. And so that's the profile that I give to Zach Charbonnet, and why I love his profile so much. He is just a do-it-all running back. He's not going to blow you away. He lacks a little bit of top-end speed. I'll fully admit that, but his vision as a runner, the way that he's able to just cook defenses at times through both the ground game and the passing game. If you want to just have some really good laughs and you just want to put on an absolute comedy show, put on the Colorado tape. Good God. There's one play that I've probably watched at least 50 times during this pre-draft process, where he does 4 cuts back and forth, and then just this defender falls over and he just runs into the end zone 20 yards past him as the safety just falls over and lays behind on the ground behind him. And it's one of the funniest video clips that I've ever seen on tape.
Yeah, as you watch the film on him, he has looks like he has good vision, really good ability to cut and find holes. He is missing, like you said, the high end speed and that burst. You don't see him explode out of the backfield or find a hole and just go. He is a little bit more of a patient runner, which is good. It's fine. It can work out really well. I do like a lot of burst from running backs, but that's the quote unquote knock on him. It's just that high end speed and then that burst. It's not it's awful. Again, he's a good, well-rounded running back, and overall, no issues with him being the 3 or even potentially the 2 in this class as we go through it. But right now, he is our pre-draft number 3 running back. Any more Charbonnet love you want to spread before we jump into number 4?
No,
got to give you your opportunity.
Y'all been sitting around here for long enough watching this feed. You've been hearing me spew it for the last 3 months, so I'll spew a lot of it after the draft. Man, if he doesn't get the draft cap, like if he doesn't get like at least top of the third draft capital, I'm gonna be heartbroken. So
Yep.
hopefully Sharps get that. But let's get into one of your guys that you really liked. I really liked as well throughout this process. I think you even a little bit more than me though in our number 4 running back.
Yeah, Kendre Miller. I think the big thing was like when I watched Charbonnet and Kendre back to back, like he had the burst and ability to hit the hole. He still doesn't have the high end speed that he's not going to be a blazer at 4.4 and just run away from decent defenses. But I do think he's faster than Charbonnet. He has incredible contact balance. Like I don't want to say Bijan-esque contact balance, but he's up there. Like he definitely can take a hit. He can lower his shoulder. He's another big body as well. Like he came in, I believe he was 5'11"? He's 5'11", 215.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much same size as Charbonnet.
Yeah, he's just coming in a little bit lighter. I initially comped him before the combine to a Zach Charbonnet light because he looked like he was a little bit lighter. It didn't come in nearly as light as I thought. I thought he'd be more around like the 209-ish area, but he's got the size. He plays with a little bit more quickness to his game. One of the things that does draw me back a little bit from his running game was the TCU offensive line absolutely dominated people all throughout the year. Like you're watching that film and Kendre Miller is just running to like 8 yards down the field before he ever gets touched a lot of the time. Now he is making cuts to find those holes and everything, but he really didn't have to deal with a lot of traffic at the line of scrimmage a lot of the time. So I do still really, really like Kendre Miller, but he's a little bit further down than these top 3 for me, but absolutely love the talent of Kendre Miller. Not a 0 out of the passing game either. I think he kind of I don't think he's as good as Zach Charbonnet in terms of like the screen and the swing game, but he's definitely capable and will catch passes at the next level too.
He had a beautiful catch. I believe it was against Texas, I will say, that he like made a beautiful catch over the middle. He has hands. He didn't the passing game. It looks like he only had 18 receptions in his time. So sorry, he had 16 receptions his senior year and then 12 the year before. So 20 in total with his 3 years in college. Not necessarily great, but he's not a 0. He can do it. He's capable, and that's what you're looking for. It's like if he's not a true weapon, is he capable? And he's more than capable. So I think for me, this is where I have a tier break. There's Bijan, Break, and I feel like these 3 running backs, at least for me, I know you're a little bit lower on Kendre, but I think he's still up there. Number 5. Who you got?
Yeah, honestly, you're saying there's a little bit of the tier break. I put the tier break, the one above, and then I have the next 2 guys here along with him. So I have a little bit of a tier break of 3 right here. And this is going to be where we get into some of the smaller guys, right? This class is full of small running backs. And luckily, this guy weighed in a little bit larger than what we thought. And it's going to be Tyjae Spears out of Tulane. Weighed in at 204. Yeah, not my guy yet. We're gonna push him off one more. Tyjae Spears weighing in at 204, actually coming in a pretty good amount heavier than what we thought he would be. As he was at the Senior Bowl weighing in 204. I think he weighed in slightly differently at the combine, but I forget what that one was off the top of my head. But we're gonna use the 204 number.
He was still over 200 pounds. I do know that. He was 201 at the combine.
Okay, so probably shaving off a little bit just to run a 40-yard dash time or something like that. But you can, at least his frame is allowing him to put on the 204 pounds that we can see. So he's above that 200 threshold mark. Really, really, really like his tape out of Tulane. Unfortunately, you don't get to see him playing against Power 5 conference teams week in and week out, but absolutely dominated there at Tulane in his senior year. 1,581 yards and 19 touchdowns in his senior year. Just running over people. He has a really good just film grade. Like whenever you're just breaking down, it's harder to break down that like non-power 5 film.
Yeah.
But really like the way he runs with vision, has all the traits that you really like. A little bit undersized for just like your normal, like, I'm not going to ever call him a workhorse running back at 204 pounds, but really do like the tape that Tyjae Spears put out of Tulane.
Yeah, and we've all seen the clip from the Senior Bowl of him doing, I believe it was it a Texas route, or he just did a little whip route, and he just completely lost the defender as he came back inside. Very good agility, stop start, quick in short, or sorry, very kind of quick in the box. So he's like has those short space agility, and ability to kind of burst through holes. Doesn't have a high end speed necessarily, but yeah, that's definitely super talented guy, a guy that's risen up the boards, and it sounds like he's going to be a day 2 running back going in the 3rd round. NFL really likes him and what he can do. So right now, RB5.
I think that whip route was Tank Dell, right? I think the cut.
Oh no.
It was both. No, you're right. So Tyjae actually had that route, and he had the cut that Ray talks about of like he was going to the line. It's not even a drill that's meant for running backs. It's meant for defensive line. And Tyjae Spears just puts a cut down where he goes like 2 gaps over, and everybody just looks around of like, holy shit, I've never seen that happen before. That was the Tyjae Spears one that I'm remembering, but I think you are right on the whip route as well. I know Tank Dell put out his one as well at the wide receiver in the wide receiver routes, but yeah, man, Tyjae Spears, he's quick, he's got the burst, the long range speed there for him as well. He's really a full package, other than a little bit of concerns about the power, not playing into power 5 in the competition, and not having the full like 5'10", 220 build.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So another guy that doesn't have a 5'10", 220 build.
Oh yeah, he definitely doesn't have that.
But this is a guy that has done it in the SEC as a featured back, has the speed, maybe not as fast as everyone had hoped, but at 185 pounds, Devon Achane comes in as our RB6 in the class today. Tell me about your man out of Texas A&M.
I love him, man. I really do. Unfortunately, like he's got the speed. He's a track athlete. It didn't come to the full fruition of like the 4.2 40 time that we were all kind of like hoping for. Like, oh, he could set the record for the 40 time. That didn't happen. But he's the track athlete. He is an absolute freaking burner, though. Even on the field, the game speed translates. Just runs by people. If you want to see the kind of like highlight example in my mind of that, go back to the Orange Bowl where they're playing UNC back in his sophomore year, where he breaks a run up off the sideline. It just takes it for like 60 yards, and just nobody can catch him. There's like 4 guys in pursuit angles. Every single one of them misses late. It's just absolutely fantastic to watch this guy run. We've seen him do it in the SEC as a featured workhorse back in this last year's Texas A&M team. Now, I don't think he had the efficiency. I think that's mostly due to the offensive line play. If you watch this, if you watch the tape back on him from all the games, there are so many nowhere to run plays that you just have to cross out of your mind because the offensive line was god awful at that team last year. The only thing that I really do have a little bit of hesitancy about with Devon Achane is, with his size, I would like to see him be a better player out of the pass catching game than he actually is, than he came across to me on tape. There's a lot of times where he'll be catching swing routes and stuff like that, and the first guy, he doesn't make the first guy miss. Like, that's all you have to do, especially whenever you have that speed, you have that burst. I don't know if he just lacks a little bit of like the control of taking the catch to turning it up the field. That doesn't fully get him in the right place to where he is as a runner, because he's very elusive as a running back, but I don't think he's as elusive as a wide receiver. And that's why I do have him a little bit lower. And then obviously you have the size concerns, right? What is it? 5'9", 180 something. And so we don't really see that profile ever hit at the next level. But I do think Devon Achane is good enough to make it work, but you can't ignore the size factor.
Yeah, I think that's the big concern for us, but it's also what I'm curious is a big concern for the NFL. If the NFL believes in him and they give him the requisite draft capital, I'm all in. I'm perfectly fine with it. We can move him up a little bit. We can look at taking him higher in rookie drafts, but that is the big concern: is will he actually get the capital needed? He didn't do any of the agility drills. He did run the 40 at the 4.32, which is still very fast. So I do want to know what his agility is, and maybe that's what what his inability to make people miss in short spaces, and maybe that's why we're missing that in the receiving game. So there's still some mystery about him, but yeah, he did it in the SEC. He can definitely carry 200, carry the ball 200 times. I think he had a game of 30 to 40 rushes, I believe.
I want to say it was 36 against
30,
LSU.
Against a very powerful, very strong, big SEC opponent. So it's like he can do it. Obviously, the NFL is not going to want him to, but hey, he can take 12 carries a game, 10 carries a game, maybe a James Pollard role, something along those lines, where he's going to be a little bit limited in his, overall carries, but hopefully it's high efficiency and get him open in space.
Yep. Hopefully he's on a good team, lands in a good spot, and he can make use of touchdowns and a good passing game for the efficiency.
And then this is where we kind of get into what I'm going to call the rest of the guys. I do like some names here, but it's kind of
I mean this is really where you see the fall off, in my opinion. There's a pretty good tier break here. I've got one guy that we're going to talk about next that I like, but yeah, I could see any of these guys going from round 3 to round back of round 5.
Yeah, and it will happen for some of these guys. So
yeah.
So right now at this point, we do have Tank Bigsby number 7. I came away a little bit more impressed than I thought I would, than I initially did when I went into the films. Actually watching him, I had this kind of preconceived notion that it just wasn't as good as we had all thought. He was I don't want to say a Debbie darling, but yeah, he was. He's really hyped up after his sophomore year. I think coming into the season, he was up there. He was talked about with Bijan being the number 2 running back in the class, and it wasn't an awful season. Auburn was bad. He had 179 attempts and he had 970 yards on the ground, 10 touchdowns. And he did catch the ball. He had 30 receptions for 180 yards. So capable out of both of those, in both of those aspects. And he does come in at 210 pounds, which is a good weight threshold as well. So what are your thoughts on Tank at this point?
Yeah, I mean, not in terms of just the size and weight and everything like that, but kind of how I talked about Zach Charbonnet is up here, and then there's Kendre Miller that's the Zach Charbonnet light. Tank Bigsby is the light version of those two, in my opinion. While he does everything okay and he doesn't do anything special, he does everything else at a lesser version of okay than those two, in my opinion. So while I do like the player and I think he could carve out a role, he's just so bland to me. Not being a Devy guy that's really followed him throughout all of the highs throughout his collegiate profile and everything. I understand the Auburn offense not being very great. I do have him still. I think he's coming in as my personal 6th wide receiver in terms of my pre combine rankings. And so he's just a guy, man.
Right.
It's so hard for me to really get excited about him. And I think that's the thing of I like him. I just don't have anything there's nothing about his profile that overly excites me.
Right. He's a good player. He's good. He lacks some burst and high end speed. He runs physical, but he's small. I wouldn't say small, but he's 209, and I just don't know that his frame is necessarily like he's going to just gain weight. Like he's not like Dalvin Cook came into the league at like 209 or 208, and he's 215 now. Like they put on some weight as they got into the NFL, and I don't know that that is what Tank is going to be able to do. Doesn't have the quickness either. He's a capable pass catcher, nothing elite or special there. He's just not special, not elite in any area that's like, oh yeah, this could translate really well to the NFL. So a good player, and if he gets draft capital, goes to a good landing spot, yeah, like you can paint a picture where things work out for him in the NFL. But again, we are at that point in the draft or in our rankings where it's like these running backs, even the honorable mentions could hop up here into the top 10 or to the back end of the top 10 just because of where we're at. So anything else you want to touch on with Tank?
No, I think I'm all good on Tank. There's just nothing of note to really talk about him. He's just a really good he's a good running back. That's it. That's just how I view Tank. Let's get into a guy though that has had a pretty good amount of hype coming in here over the last week and a half or so, especially within the Destination Devy community, and that will be Israel Abanikanda, running back out of Pitt. Just an absolute explosion of a senior year, right? Only was rushing for 651 yards. Barely even a factor in his freshman year. Comes into his junior year, 239 attempts for 1,400 yards and 20 touchdowns in the ACC. Just absolutely tore it up, and you can see it in the film, man. There's obvious glaring holes, I think, that are in there that have him lower than just the bland Tank Bigsby that we just got off of. But man, he has got some he has got some speed and size both combined that I think that's why we have the hype of like he is the featured running back that can actually take on the carries, take on that like 60% role that we've been talking about over there, and he has a really good speed profile. So like talk to me. I know you like Izzy more than me, so go on and talk about him.
No, and it's you kind of touched on a lot of it. It's the burst. Like he's came in at a much bigger, I don't say much, but a larger size than I thought. I thought he was going to be in that 208, 207 range. He's came in 216. And when he ended up, running his 40-yard dash, he ran that in a 4.45. So he does have that, higher end speed, but he has that burst as well. He's not as physical of a runner that you would anticipate for someone his size. I think that was the only knock that I really saw. Just he didn't seem physically like imposing necessarily. And that's why maybe I thought he was smaller. I don't know if it's the contact balance. I think he does have some of that at times. He's one that I feel like could jump up because he does have that speed and burst that really do translate into the NFL. And that is what I love to see. So I feel like if he does get the opportunity, he will have, the chance to give you a good return on your investment, because most likely you're taking him at the back of the second. We've seen him in the third round of rookie drafts. So we'll see what actually happens with the NFL draft and how that shakes out. But Izzy's one that I think is kind of a sleeper. If he gets the opportunity to get on the field and get touches, could really make a name for himself pretty early in his NFL career.
Yeah, just a couple of notes that I was taking down whenever I was watching him, just to kind of put the questions in there. I mean, the good thing though, man, like whenever he sees that hole, like you were saying, the burst, whenever he does have that open lane form in front of him, his burst is just absolutely insane. So I really, really love that. But I do think he runs a little bit upright, which is why I think like you were saying, he doesn't really run through people. I think he's a little bit too upright to really lower that shoulder, go through people sometimes. And I think he's a little bit more straight line than a lot of the guys that we talked about before, especially at the smaller level. He's a little bit straight line, doesn't really have the like side to side lateral agility to really make people miss in terms of just on the field. And those are kind of the questions that I have. So he's a better Zach Evans, maybe, in my opinion, that can actually catch the ball a little bit.
A bigger Zach Evans too.
A better and bigger Zach Evans. Yeah, that's what I have Izzy. That's what I have Izzy at.
Yeah, I think I don't mind that at all. I think Zach Evans falls down a little bit too much for me than Izzy. I think Izzy does have a little bit more to, his bounce off ability or his contact balance than Zach Evans, because I feel like you touch Zach Evans and he falls over. So yeah, but that's pretty much it. We had to have him here in the top 10. And I feel like number 7's a good spot for him. I don't know that he can go a whole lot higher with his draft capital. We'll see how that shakes out. But, he could be a very good asset for fantasy teams and someone that I don't say necessarily getting late in drafts, but in the late second, early third could be a good value for your fantasy team. So, yeah, let's jump into number 8 here on the list as we get things out of here or start wrapping up the rest of these guys. Sorry, number 9.
9, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Number
my
9
apologies.
though is going to be we're gonna have 2 in the top 10. It's Roschon Johnson, another running back out of Texas, and I know that you're a little. I had to kind of force your hand on this one because you don't really.
I'm buying in. I am buying in. I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
So, running back out of Texas, initially a quarterback out of Texas, a convert to the running back position, and playing second fiddle to Bijan is not going to give you a stellar production profile at all. It's pretty much impossible. But he was very, very good as a complementary back to Bijan in that offense. Never was taking more than 100 rushes in his last 3 years at Texas, but putting up pretty solid in just terms of like average, always rushing for over 5 yards a carry, putting the touchdowns on there as well. The mental makeup, I guess, is probably what a lot of people are looking for, right? He is a fantastic blocker for third downs. He's a good pass catcher out of the backfield as well. So you think he's probably going to be on the field for that. And by just all accounts, NFL teams love this guy. Like there's reports of him going the 3rd or 4th running back off the board in the entire NFL draft. Being the quarterback convert, apparently this guy just holds a fantastic mental makeup around him, fully for the team, will be willing to do whatever is asked of him. And you saw that. I mean, him sticking around, I think actually says a lot about him sticking around at Texas, being the second fiddle guy to Bijan Robinson, a guy who is just a supremely better talent than you, but just willing to do whatever is asked of you from that offense. I think if he was anywhere else, we probably would have seen a larger production profile to actually put him probably above where he is right now. But everything that I have heard is just makeup and model of this guy is fantastic, and the NFL loves him. And if they do really love him like that, I think he's going to get on the field. I mean, people are saying that he's a fantastic special teamer as well. I just don't think that's limiting his role to only special teams. I think he's going to be on the field and being a fairly decent contributor to the team that ends up taking him because they just like the dude.
Yeah, I mean, 6 foot 219, ran a 4.58 40. Like the pass blocking is absolutely there. Like he's going to get on the field, right? Like I think that's the big thing is he's going to get on the field. He's going to get snaps, which is what you can ask for out of a guy that's probably going in the late second, early third of our rookie draft. So, I think landing spot's going to mean a lot. I just don't know. I don't really know what he is as a running back. And I think that's what the mystery is for me. Could absolutely pan out. I get it. I get it. We're talking top 10. He's number 9. Like I'm not going to shake the tree too much on this one and be like, I can't believe we have Roschon. I like Roschon. I do. It seems like NFL teams like him. And if he's going to be getting second round draft capital as well, or second day draft capital going in like the 3rd round, you're going to lock him into your second and 3rd rounds of rookie drafts.
Yeah. I mean, my thing just as a rusher, like even during his time at Texas, like there was a lot of times he was playing out of Wildcat. So like he was straight running out of the quarterback position. So I think he's a good enough runner as he was as a quarterback for it to translate it well enough as a pure just running back. And I think we've seen that over the past 4 years that he's been with Texas. So I do think there definitely are questions, but one of those guys that if the draft capital tells me that they're willing to make the bet on him, I'm willing to make the bet on him as well.
Yep, exactly. I feel like that's just what it comes down to with the rest of these running backs is if the NFL believes, then I will as well. So, yep, good with him at number 9 and number 10 here. Let's just wrap things out with Chase Brown, running back out of Illinois. He had a monster senior year as well with 328 rushes on the ground for 1,600 yards. Did catch 27 balls for 240. Smaller than he runs. Like when you actually watch him out there, he seems like he's a physical guy that is probably 210, 215, but he's fast, he's quick, and I feel like he's just a well-rounded running back. Again, doesn't do anything overly special, I would say, is the best way I could put it. But again, just another good running back in this class that has a lot of experience in the Big Ten running the ball.
Yep. The next guy, we're talking about Bland, Tank Bigsby, Bland, Chase Brown. Like that's how I have it. I think he's a little bit more out of the receiving game that I saw. I think he's a little bit better. I think he's a little bit better in that area. But one of the biggest things that's got to be a red flag for you is he's coming out of college with 676 rushing attempts during his 5 years in college. 328 rushing attempts only in his senior year. Like you're talking about that 1,600 number in terms of yards that he ran for, but good God, 328 rushing attempts in college is outlandish.
They rode him into the ground there.
It was seriously hard sometimes watching his film because you're sitting there and you're like, why is this a 15-minute video of only Chase Brown running the ball cut-ups? Like, holy hell, that entire season of watching him run the ball took like 2 hours to do of only him and his rushing attempts. So I like Chase Brown. I liked him from my the pre-combine just film process from his senior year. But like you said, not a guy I don't think who does anything overly special. Coming in a little bit lighter and undersized than we would have liked. But I do like the talent. You're probably just really looking at a guy who's a rotational guy who might be a piece of a backfield in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like his if he has a specialty, so to speak, he does have some good burst and speed. Like he did run a 4.43, and I wanted to double check the weight because it says he came in at 209 pounds, and I thought it was 204, but yeah, so I do want to check on that to kind of find out because it's a little bit heavier than I anticipated. But yeah, as far as vision and everything else go, he's good. He's not going to be anyone that's just breaking a ton of tackles. He does run physical for his size, and then when you have that 4.43 speed, if you get him in open space, he can break one off. Catch and run, I'm with you. I feel like he's a lot better as a pass catcher than Illinois used him as, and when you did see him, it just looked very natural. So would be very smooth. Real interested to see how an NFL team does use him, and then what kind of draft capital he does get with what kind of situation he even lands in. So interesting guy, but again, with the running back market the way it is, and then you have these rookies,
could literally be a 6th-round draft pick.
Exactly, could be a 6th-round draft pick. Just lots of saturation in the running back market, which is really going to kill what these guys can become.
Yep. So I don't think I got anything more to touch about on Chase Brown. I guess some honorable mentions to wrap us on out of here.
Yeah, go ahead if you have any names off the top of your head. I got a couple as well.
Yep. The ones that I got in no particular order: Eric Gray, Dwayne McBride out of UAB, Sean Tucker, and truthfully, he should be in this top 10. I think if he didn't have I'll let you talk about him a little bit more because he's your guy. Zach Evans, thankfully not in the top 10, and then Deuce Vaughn, unfortunately, just because he is absolutely tiny. I can't in good graces have him in the top 10, even though he's like 5th in my pre-combine grades just because of I'm only grading the alpha film and production profile. And so he's like 5th in my rankings, and then he's outside of my top 10 just because of the size. It's awful, but I can't in good conscience do it.
Yep. Yeah, totally understand. It's going to be very specific to very low percentage opportunity for Deuce Vaughn to be a hit. And you mentioned Sean Tucker. Love Sean Tucker coming into the year. His sophomore season or his second year, because it's technically his redshirt freshman season. His second year in the league or in college, 1,500 yards on the ground, 12 touchdowns. He had 20 catches for 255. All the hope in the world of him coming into this his junior year, of expecting some big things from him. Came out, he had 1,000 yards on 200 carries. He did have 11 touchdowns, just didn't look the same. The offense was bad. Offensive line was terrible. He didn't look great. Then there was medical concerns around him. Didn't run at the combine where everyone thought he was going to shine. That was his chance. Didn't do anything there. Didn't even get to participate in his own pro day. He did have, he didn't get to participate in Syracuse's pro day. Had his own pro day.
His iMovie pro day.
And so a lot of mysteries there about what's going on with him. Definitely some undisclosed injuries that will get released, I'm sure, as the draft rolls around, but it has massively tanked his draft stock. And if he's not getting draft capital, we can't have him up here. I love Sean Tucker. I hope the best for him. I hope he does get draft capital or goes to a situation where he can thrive and turn things around. But right now, where things stand and the way everyone's talking about Sean Tucker, it's going to be a pain to see him in the 3rd round of rookie drafts, and that's where you're going to find him.
Yeah, I think if he was getting if he does get the same draft capital, like if some team clears him of all of the medical stuff and he is like a top of the 4th round guy, I think he'd probably be around like our RB7, RB8 probably, depending on the landing spot and everything, of course. But I think he would jump back into that top 10. But man, I just haven't seen him there in most of the mocks that we've been doing. It seems like everybody kind of has the hint that the NFL teams are just out on this guy, and he's like a 6th rounder sometimes.
Yeah, and that very well may be the case. I think the things that like I've seen on film this junior year, or I guess his redshirt sophomore year, whatever you want to call it, his 3rd year in at Syracuse. He stops his feet way too much. So if there's not a hole at the line of scrimmage, he just stops his feet, loses all momentum, and then can't really accelerate. More of a straight line runner. He can catch very, very fast when you get him into open space. Just doesn't have a lot of wiggle. And it's very reminiscent of Chuba Hubbard, the running back out of Oklahoma State, where he straight line burner, but lacks the wiggle. And we've seen Chuba have success in the NFL, just not great success. Obviously, they brought in Miles Sanders to replace him already. Gives me some concern. So if he's not getting draft capital, even if the best case is a 4th round pick, I'm not gonna own a lot of Sean Tucker unless I'm getting him in the mid 3rd. So
yep. An unfortunate one because I liked him as well, but with the concerns and everything surrounding him right now and that last year, just can't have him inside the top 10. But hopefully we see the draft capital and hope we can put him back in. Sure, we'll see some shakeup in these running back rankings because there are a lot of guys that feel very similar, and we'll probably be changing them up a lot once we get the draft capital and landing spots. But we'll get those to you post NFL draft over the next month or so here. We'll put them all out to you in kind of the same order that we did the quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers, and running backs. Don't know if we'll do them all in the same exact order, but probably breaking them down in the same fashion. So Chase, unless you got anything else, wrap us on out of here, man.
Nope. Again, if you're still with us here, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Give us some comments down below about what your thoughts are, and make sure you check out the Overreaction podcast on the Destination Devy radio feed every Wednesday, wherever you can find your podcasts. A great bunch of content creators over there with Scott Connor. We have Eric Vanek doing their show on the weekends as well for America's Game. We get the 40 Chess Guys on Fridays. So check out everyone. Ike and Gene on Thursdays, and we have the new pod of Jordan Backus doing Devi. So you check out every single day. Lots of content going on. And thank you so much for joining us here in the Fantasy Draft Room.